Fundstrat Managing Partner and Head of Research, Tom Lee. Are we wrong to say that Nvidia matters to the overall market?
Nvidia is hugely important. A lot of eyes are on tomorrow, as you said, and it's going to be very telling us about how much firepower still exists in the market. If Nvidia has a great report and rallies, I think it's going to confirm we're not really at the top of the first half 2024 market top. But there's an equal chance that Nvidia has a great number and the stock sells off. And I think that's going to tell us perhaps a lot of the buying power is used up. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, here's the thing about Nvidia, and I'll give my take, and you say, no, Sullivan, you're wrong as usual, which is Nvidia will probably beat street estimates on EPS and sales. Okay, they do every quarter. It's a measure, I suspect, of obviously the guidance matters a ton, but how much they beat by. This could be a time, Tom, where we see a company blow away estimates and it still not be good enough.
Yes. Anecdotally, I'm finding a lot of our clients thinking the company is going to beat and sell off, which tells me
exactly what I just said.
Yes. And that's why I actually think the bigger surprise would be Nvidia rallies tomorrow, and it shows there's still legs left in the rally of the first half. But that's just an anecdote.
How much matters in the guidance versus the actual quarterly numbers last quarter?
All of it's going to matter. And as you know, because a lot of things have been priced into it, people are going to look for little wrinkles and, blemishes. So a lot is priced in. But, I think if there is a sell-off, I actually think it's going to be viable for the most part.
And you've been bullish. You've been right. You've been out there with there's like a couple of you guys that were on your own island for most of 2023. It's a very lonely place, by the way.
Yeah.
But you survived, like Tom Hanks. You had a volleyball as a friend, and you've prospered. You still remain bullish for the year.
Yes.
Is Nvidia the biggest risk to the market? Is the Fed the biggest risk to the market? Is the election the biggest risk to the market? We have to factor in the macro stuff. What do you think most about?
I think the Fed's the biggest risk because the market needs to broaden, and it's going to broaden when interest rate cuts start to get priced and investors begin to think about that roadmap. And if inflationary pressures don't ease and the Fed starts to sort of second guess that, I think it puts a lot of pressure on stocks.
Is there a not zero chance, or is there a zero chance we get a rate hike this year? People are now starting to talk about that again. Or is that a 0% chance in your mind?
I mean, I think that the probability is low in actuality, but the market could get concerned about it. And if it does, that would put pressure on stocks.
January is 1 month doth not a trend make, as you know more than anybody. January's numbers were hot. We saw in the early 80s, late 70s, inflation can look like it's whipped and then it comes back up, right? We saw that again. It can be sticky, as they say. If we get more hot inflation data for February, does that hit stocks? Because now the Fed is suddenly back in play again.
I mean, I'd say it's really bad if inflation's hot in February, because how would you convince the bond market and the Fed that inflation's falling? But that would not be our central view. I think there was a lot of one-offs and even, bad seasonality that makes January CPI look hot. I think February CPI could be quite soft, but it's too early still.
Where's the best place to make money in the stock market right now?
Well, I think if someone is saying, where's the best risk reward, I like small caps because their valuations are attractive. Price to book is still 44% of the S&P. That's still the launch point where they were in 99. They're big beneficiaries when the Fed starts cutting. Expectations are low, and actually delivered earnings haven't been bad. So I think it's good risk reward, but, tomorrow...
We've been there before. The valuations you cite have been there, and people have ignored it. And I do wonder, and I'm going to tick off half the audience or more right now, if the Mag 7 sells off, the S&P is probably in trouble because they're so huge, right? But that means people are raising cash. They're selling, they're taking profits, they're raising cash. Could a Mag 7 sell-off be the best thing for the small caps?
In a way, because you're right. Russell 2000 is 8% of the S&P, so it wouldn't take a lot of reallocation into
That's
small
it.
caps to make a big move. There's still $6 trillion of cash on the sidelines, and margin debt is way below where it was in 2021. So I still think there's a lot of firepower in this.
Yeah, I think, don't quote me on this number, guys. Somebody out there can Google it. I think Microsoft's and Apple's market caps alone are more than the entire Russell 2000 combined.
I wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, so you get a sell-off there. To your point, you're talking about a lot of money, a lot of firepower going into a pretty small space. We just have to convince people, and as you are doing and some others who have recommended, that small caps are not going to be dead money, because they were dead money for a while.
Yes, and
They're not sexy. We don't know their names. Their companies based in Des Moines and whatever, right?
Yeah, they're very tough though if the Fed's not cutting. Because,
What do you mean?
well, small cap companies in general have more leverage, so they're more affected by cost of money, and they're affected by the capital spending cycle, which is again affected by monetary policy. So I think small caps are quite cyclically sensitive.
So if rates don't continue to climb, because they've ticked up in the last couple of weeks, if rates go down, good for small caps.
Very good for small caps.
And yeah, have you heard about these Nvidia earnings tomorrow, Tom?
Supposedly, it's the first time I'm hearing about it.
It's a big deal. You should look into that.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling we'll talk about it tomorrow night.
Yes.
Just a random suspicion. Tom Lee, Fundstrat, always great.